The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Open line on Mannin Line today till 1 o'clock, so get in touch if there's something you'd like to bring up to the attention of the nation today. More savings at Manx Care. The Infrastructure Minister defended the decision to reallocate taxpayer money originally earmarked for the horse trams to the prom. Timbold, of course, wasn't consulted. It just happened. Maybe they thought nobody'd notice. That also, and also Jason Morehouse has been talking about the southern bypass, the Ballysalla bypass, which he says is an unbelievable situation. He's accusing the department of leaving small issues unresolved and says it's just going to take a long, long time, possibly into the next administration. Anything else, then do get in touch. David's first with us today. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I just want to let the people know regarding the letters that local authorities had from the Chief Minister regarding engaging a company called Altair Limited.
Yeah.
For the creation of an all-island housing association. I thought we had local authorities that covered that, and even the government department itself, the local government unit, has about 5,000 houses. They operate all the time. And I just wonder what's behind it. What's the terms of reference? Not getting any feedback from government departments when you ask questions. In fact, some of them don't even know what's something's happening there. So I just wondered what... maybe Max Radio can inquire what this company is, who are they, what have they done in the past, why we engage somebody off island instead of looking somebody locally, and how's it going to be fair if they're going to assess the local government unit as well, their housing stock. Are they going to be poacher come gamekeeper there? I'm not quite sure.
Well, Altair Limited is based in southeast London. It's in Rotherhithe.
Right.
So that's what they do. They're basically, they've been working in housing for a long time. Don't know what their record is, but what they do is anything really, from development, regeneration, corporate finance, that sort of stuff they do. So we'll wait to see what... they'll obviously break cover at some point, but we don't quite know if this is the same Altair, but they have been involved in housing in the past, and they work with local authorities here and there. No, we've not been told anything about this, so local authorities have then.
Yeah, well, it's only recently, though, because the letter that came in was dated the 27th of September, and I believe, had it confirmed from the Clerk and Uncan there, we got it on the 1st of October. I know the post is usually a little bit poor, but that's a few days, isn't it? And I just wondered why there haven't been any briefings from there. I know the Municipal Association's concerned about what's happening there. We've had this in the past, and... I just wondered, they're not even consulting the tenants, or is there intention to consult the tenants? And what about sheltered accommodation?
Well, it just seems a bit vague, doesn't it? And particularly as, the chair of the Housing and Communities Board, obviously Mr. Ashford will know all about this, wouldn't he?
Well, one would have thought so, but he's not confessing he's a landlord, so he must be a landlord, because he's controlling it, he's head of it. Maybe David would come on, although they're going to be busy the next couple of days, aren't they? But maybe you could ask him towards the end of the week and say, when did he know about it? Why didn't it come out into public domain? What consultation have you had? What's its remit?
Well, this Altair that's based in southeast London basically say that their research and insights work combines top-level housing sector expertise with practical analysis to help organisations stay ahead of the curve, whatever that means, and provide the sector with assurance to make data-driven decisions and policies that deliver results. Well, that's a load of management gobbledygook. Presumably, they've done it before for other people and are going to try and do it here.
And what's their fee going to be? And are they going to be a competitor?
Well,
they want.
I think it's fair to say, David, it's going to be a fat fee, isn't it? People in South East London don't do things for free.
Yeah. Well, I hope they're not coming on the planes, or they have to book early. But anyway, I just want to throw it out there because it's strange to me, and people now are asking questions to me and saying to them, what's it about? What are they up to? And even today, sometime they said there was 750 odd on the housing list for local authority accommodation, and I think there was 215 off the top of my head for sheltered accommodation.
Yeah.
You know, why aren't they encouraging local authorities to build stuff? You know, we have a mechanism there which doesn't cost the government any more money. In fact, it's all ratepayer driven on that. So these housing associations, stuff like that, are they going to take a slice of the cake? It's when Mr. Crookall says it's not for profit.
Yeah.
We'd have to see the.
Well, so anyway, this is Altair, Altair. That's the name of the people, is it?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, all right.
But I don't know much about them, and I'm waiting for an answer from government to say what the terms of reference are. What was the contract ever tendered out there? I don't remember seeing it in the papers to say we're going to do, and normally we do that, don't we? We should be doing that because it could be a company on the Isle of Man who has expertise.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Okay, all right. Appreciate that, David. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Bye.
Cheers now. Altair Limited. .co.uk is their website address, altairltd.co.uk, based in Rotherhithe in southeast London, and they've been involved in housing matters for quite a few people. Everything is on their website. Take a look. It's in the public domain. It will be interesting to see. Actually, we're going to be talking about housing in great detail. It's going to be in November. Because David Ashford's going to be on Mannin Line in November talking about housing, and with him will be Councillor Watson, Devon Watson. Is going to be on. Councillor Watson and David Ashford, MHK, will be talking about housing, and also in particular the big plans that Douglas has got for housing, that the local authority has got for housing. Plans one thing. What's exactly going to happen? And I know certainly Councillor Watson is very eager to get this underway, so we'll wait. He's on Thursday, 14th of November. Councillor Devon Watson and David Ashford, MHK, Chair of the Housing and Communities Board, will be talking about housing, and in particular we'll be looking at Douglas and public sector housing. Of course, this coming Wednesday, we're talking about wind power and also plastic in our sea. Bill Dale is here, the man who started Beach Buddies on the Isle of Man, now with a worldwide reputation, basically for collecting rubbish off beaches. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But there's millions of tons of rubbish in the sea. Anyway, and also Jerome Watts, who heads a company called Danu Tech on the Isle of Man, a former ocean-going yacht racer. This guy has raced right across the Atlantic, the southern bit of the Atlantic, from Africa to South America, and he knows all about plastic in the sea, and he knows about wind power as well. Well, certainly, I mean, he knows about yachting wind power, but also other wind power. So that's this Wednesday. Jerome Watts and Bill Dale. Chief Minister's here, by the way, 2 weeks today. Chief Constable, sorry, is here 2 weeks today. Russ Foster, Chief Constable of the Isle of Man Constabulary, a fortnight today, the 28th. Then early November, Daphne Kane, Sarah Maltby and Paul Crane will be in. Daphne, the Minister for DESC, Sarah Maltby, member for the DESC, and Paul Crane, MLC, a member as well. We're talking about Department of Education, Sport and Culture. That to come, and lots more specials before Christmas. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Isn't it a lovely day out there?
What a gorgeous day. It was, and let me tell you, it was a lovely sunrise this morning.
Yeah, I know. I got a picture of it. It's absolutely beautiful. A new tile mosaic installed in Port St Mary, down the steps opposite the shops above the underway.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely stunning. Based on artwork by Deborah Tracy and put together by 200 participants from schools in the south of the island, along with several societies. It's really quite impressive. Within the artwork includes Chicken Rock Lighthouse, the Drinking Dragon, the Car for Man, heather and sea pink covered headlands, an old and a new lifeboat, and loads of wildlife, including seals, oyster catchers, puffins, seagulls, choughs, and more. And it's just a wonderful, like a cultural snapshot of what makes the Isle of Man so special.
Who put it together?
This was the RNLI. It's part of their 200 project. Right. So there was 200 participants. Absolutely stunning. I recommend if anybody's in Port St Mary, just nip down the steps in front of the near the chemist. Just go across down the side and have a little look in there. It's absolutely beautiful. And it kind of leads me on to a news article in Canada that has an interesting link with the Isle of Man. This article is about Waterton Lakes National Park in Alberta. A company called Altair, nothing to do with the Altair you mentioned before, has been trying to push through plans for a wind farm called the Riplinger Wind Power Project within the national park. Now, the park is sparsely populated with a few towns in the area, such as Cardston and Pincher Creek, and the total population in the area is around 10,000. However, a Change.org online petition, which is titled Stop the Riplinger Industrial Wind Power Plant, has garnered 6,600 votes, so a 66% vote turnout. And many of the people in the local area depend on the 4 to 5 month tourist season, including a booming business in wedding photos taken with the stunning backdrop of Waterton Lakes National Park behind. Now, earlier this year, TransAlta recently withdrew their application for the wind farm. Can you guess what the connection is, Andy, between Waterton Lakes National Park and the Isle of Man?
Go on.
They're both UNESCO Biosphere, and they're both a dark sky area. UNESCO have designated the area the name the Waterton Biosphere Reserve, and it's within the United Nations website.
Yeah.
The Alberta government have also imposed a 35-kilometre no-bill buffer zone around the park to ensure this can't happen again. The government citing concerns about bird and bat deaths, including at-risk and red-listed species, contamination of aquifers, tributaries and drinking water, destruction of biodiversity and damage to local businesses. So if the Alberta government are protecting their UNESCO biosphere, why isn't our government doing the same with ours, especially as we're the only whole nation biosphere?
It's interesting. I've not heard from the biosphere people on their view of what's going to happen on the Isle of Man, and you just wonder. It's going to be interesting on Wednesday, and I suggest you listen. Jerome Watts, this guy, the Dutch guy who's coming in, knows all about microplastics and nanoplastics, obviously, because he raced yachts for years and years and years that were made of glass fiber and of Kevlar. So, but he knows all about this stuff, and absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and there's a lot of question marks about. They've measured certain bacteria which seem to be eating up plastic. So when they say it's non-biodegradable, there's certain types of bacteria that seem actually to be eating it up for fun at the moment. So that's an interesting thing. Another thing to do with all this, I noticed a day or two ago on your Manx Radio news headlines, customers to help shape Manx Utilities' future electricity pricing strategy, in which 1,000 local residents will be invited to join focus groups on such topics as understanding customer energy usage patterns. I mean, I don't know, does that mean that they want to change our energy usage patterns? Tariff structures and the potential impact of new technology, energy integration. Now, Manx Utilities' 5-year pricing strategy is scheduled to be laid before Tynwald for consideration and approval at the November sitting of Tynwald. Well, it's mid-October now. This focus group meeting is supposed to be within the next 2 weeks. So say towards the end of October, you get some sort of an answer, and the November sitting is on the 19th of November. Isn't that quite a rush to consider setting the electricity price tariffs for the next 5 years on the Isle of Man?
And I just wonder if you ask customers, customers who buy electricity, what their view is, of future tariffs. Let's face it, at least 999 are going to say, drop the price.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of tariff structures, I don't know if you heard this, last week, the 1,400 megawatt North Sea Link interconnector between Norway and the UK went into fault, cutting out instantly. The only thing that stopped the UK electrical network from blacking out was a fleet of rapid response open circuit emergency gas turbines that held up the electrical baseload for the UK until they fixed the problem. But guess how much the wholesale electrical price was to do that for those megawatt hours that those gas turbines were running?
A fortune.
£2,500 a megawatt hour, or 40 times the normal price.
Oh,
and interestingly, in July, there was a similar situation, and the UK had to go to auction price from the EU interconnectors. Now, they had to draw power from Belgium for a short duration of time whilst there was no wind generation. Of course, they're getting rid of a lot of the generation. Do you guess how much the charge was from Belgium to supply the UK with power for that time?
An arm and
£9,724 a megawatt.
I was going to say, what's Flemish for an arm and a leg?
150 times the normal electrical price to draw power down from Belgium just to keep the UK, because they literally had us by the short and curlies, because otherwise you'd have had to have cut the system off because there wasn't enough generation to cope. And apparently the future idea is that rather than electricity retailers absorbing the high costs of these intermittent wind and solar and ramping up inefficient rapid response gas turbines, this is the reason why smart meters are going to be installed. So the customer will be the one that will be forced to either cut back or be faced with a massively increased amount of electrical charge for that period of time.
Okay, I mean, Julian, you're not suggesting that that could possibly happen, that the customers will be told to cut back?
Well, what they'll do is they'll be offered what you might say is a choice. So they'll be saying, well, you know, terribly sorry, but you're going to have to pay 10 or 15 times the amount of, for the length of time. Say it's a few days or something where there's unfavourable weather conditions and we're all reliant on wind and solar.
Yeah.
You might find that rather than the 29 pence we're talking about, you might be on £1 a unit or £2 a unit.
I mean, Julian, there would be trouble in the streets if that happened, surely. No politician would ever vote for that, surely.
Well, you know, there's certain things that will happen. For example, Pulrose Gas Power Station is a closed-circuit system. So that means that, you know, the idea is that these wind turbines at Erie Staine will run, and you'll lower Pulrose down to an idle.
Yeah.
The problem with that is a closed-circuit gas turbine uses 50% of the gas that it would use when it's running normally. So you're still using half the amount of gas when it's not doing anything. So that's not very efficient. By the way, I noticed I was walking in Erie Staine Plantation a few days ago, and there's a load of trees with white crosses painted on them. And this is very close to where buzzards are currently nesting. Just kind of interested to know what those white crosses mean. And when I was at the top of Erie Staine, there was a bunch of red-legged grouse. And if you look on the Manx Wildlife Trust website, they're saying that is red-listed, facing extinction in the UK, and it's one of the last strongholds is in the southern uplands of the island. And I saw them, and they're just round Erie Staine. So that's something to consider, isn't it?
Okay. All right. Appreciate it, Julian. Just give me the name of that place in Canada again, in Alberta.
Yeah, it's the Waterton, it's Water, T-O-N,
yeah.
Lakes National Park. And if you look on change.org, the easiest way to look at the detail, because, of course, they always say why they want to stop it, it's called the Stop the Riplinger, R-I-P-L-I-N-G-E-R. So Stop the Riplinger Industrial Wind Power Plant. So if you look on that change.org site, you'll see exactly. But, of course, it seems to have worked because they've completely withdrawn. They're not going to do it at all. And it's primarily based around the fact that it's a UNESCO Biosphere and a dark sky area, and everyone around there is up in arms about it. So,
okay, all right. Well, appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. If the MUA is going to produce a 5-year pricing strategy, we should know the impact of green proposals, whether or not people can actually afford to live on the Isle of Man, says this correspondent. This is 313. Looking forward, 927 AM, looking forward to seeing the full details of this report. In particular, this is regarding the trams and what have you. Looking forward to seeing the full details of this report, in particular the track lane specifications and whether it's being over-engineered to allow the use of heavier electric trams at some point in the future. If so, will there be an option for a lightweight horse tram only track reinstatement to the bottleneck car park, and the cost comparison, says Nigel. What's going to happen with the horse trams? The infrastructure minister, Mr. Crookall, has defended the decision to reallocate taxpayer money originally earmarked for reinstating the horse trams to another project. Do you remember when that happened? And they de-scoped it. That was the trendy word. They de-scoped it, didn't they? So what's going to happen? In 2017, the Department of Infrastructure was granted funding to restore the horse trams to the sea terminal, but currently, of course, it only extends as far as Broadway by that delightful sea wall. Despite redirecting the funds, Tynwald simply wasn't asked. And you may remember Charles Gard talking in great detail, almost despairing, talking about it, just saying it doesn't really matter what we want or what Tynwald wants, people can just do it. Tim Crookall MHK was asked if he accepts that the decision represents a clear breach of the democratic process. This is Tim Crookall MHK.
The decision was taken to descope it because the prom scheme was overrunning cost-wise. So, the money was taken out to finish, and the trams tracks finished where they were at the bottom of Broadway for the time being. It works. People can still go on the horse trams and that, but it doesn't work properly, if you like.
It was your department that halted the tramway extension and reallocated the funds, though, without consulting Tynwald. That's been labelled as a slap in the face. How do you justify that lack of transparency and accountability?
I can't justify that. I wasn't actually in Tynwald at the time when it was done, but I can't justify that at all. I actually voted against the scheme at the very outset because I don't think what they planned with the horse trams was right. I thought it was the wrong scheme, but I supported the fact that it should be done right from one end to the other, and I would like to see that finished.
You keep saying that you would like to see that finished, but the rails are being stored. There seems no sense of urgency to move or protect them despite their importance to the project. What does that say about your department's priorities?
They're not going to fade away. They're not going to disappear. They are starting to rust and pit a tiny bit, but I mean, they are going to be absolutely usable even if we left them where they are for the next 5 years.
Do you understand how this situation erodes public confidence in the political system?
No.
You don't see how the money was given to the horse trams, it was reallocated without consulting Tynwald?
Yes, sorry I picked you up wrong there. But yes, and I understand that it was done basically, the scheme was there to be finished and it wasn't. But, there was a priority decision to be made because the scheme was overspent. So it's a case of where do you take that money from?
Like you said, I understand this is before your time in the infrastructure department, but you are here now. Do you think someone should lose their job because of how this has been handled?
No, I don't think they should now. If that was going to happen, it should have happened at the time, probably, for the cost of the job being overspent and all sorts. But prices go up and decisions have to be made at the time. It's very hard for me to say. Everybody wants somebody's head on a plate for something like this, but, no. To answer your question, here and now, no.
Tim Crookall MHK, very honest about the whole thing, and we all understand that the exigencies of the time bubble up. The promenade was running into trouble. The budget suddenly shot up, and we are where we are. But what happens? We were promised the horse trams, and it seems every time we talk about the horse trams, the halfway horse trams, that people kind of look down at their shoes and blow on the back of their fingers and hum and ha. Nobody says, unequivocally, nobody says it is the horse trams are going back to the sea terminal. It's all a bit if-ish, maybe, perhaps. You never know when. No politician seems to to actually, and Mr. Crookall said, this doesn't, if you like, decrease confidence in the political process. What do you think about it? We were promised the horse trams, and the horse trams are an iconic part of the Isle of Man's offering. It's part of our culture. It helps with tourism. Sure, it costs money. Sure, they lose money. However, as part of the overall Heritage Rail offering and the living appearance of Douglas Promenade, they've been there for years and years and years. And for politicians to say, or senior civil servants just to look the other way and say, we'll stop them and nobody will notice. It's not really working, is it?
Whatever your business, whatever its size, you can always rely on the island's leading fuel and oil supplier to keep you moving. Ellen Vannin Fuels, powering the island and powering industry. Call us on 844 000.
It's the perfect time to plant spring bulbs and winter pansies, and there's a wide range available at Ramsey Garden Centre, plus a full range of garden essentials for indoor and out, including battery lights. Visit Ramsey Garden Centre, open 7 days a week.
Whether starting a new business or building up your existing business, come and talk to the accounts and tax experts at Nicola Bowker & Co. With their holistic approach to business advice, Nicola Bowker & Co. will work with you to achieve success. For accounts that work, call 861 271.
Feeding friends and family with the finest the island has to offer. The Forge Smokehouse and Grill Santon. Fresh Manx produce marinated, slowly cooked, grilled and smoked to perfection right here and served in a gorgeous setting. Just walk in anytime, no booking needed. Parties, family gatherings and weddings, the perfect venue for any occasion. And don't forget our large marquee for any event. Visit theforge.im and see.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea, and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
You'd wonder what all the fuss is about over closing off a few parking spaces in Castletown, but it's seen a couple of former town MHKs breaking cover on the subject. The latest of these is Richard Ronan, who led the regeneration work in Castletown during his time as MHK. What was the thinking behind these regeneration schemes? Have they worked? Is government and Tynwald doing enough to try to bring vibrancy back to our struggling town centres? All this and more on Agenda at 5:30 this evening on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Assuming I can find a parking space, of course.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
26 minutes before 1, Monday lunchtime on the Isle of Man, and a lovely day. After Mannin Line today, it's our 60th anniversary, and Monday means we're delving into the archive. The late Ian Qualtrough and David Callister talking about a different strain of bee that was brought to the island from Shetland. After Mannin Line today, tune into it. Ian Qualtrough and David Callister talking about a different strain of bee that was brought to the Isle of Man. Thanks also to Kevin, who asked me and just said, I heard something about Manx Radio about the money that's been paid to airlines in government support since the general election. How much was it? It was £7.5 million, Kevin. Chris Thomas asked a question in Tynwald, and he asked what subventions have been provided to airlines during this administration. Dr. Allinson confirmed £2.1 million was provided in the 22-23 financial year, £4.1 million the following year, and so far in this financial year, £1.33 million. It's come from the Contingency Fund and the Economic Strategy Fund. Dr. Allinson said there were several reasons for providing the support, including securing connectivity to London for business and leisure, securing northwest England routes and patient transfers, and improving resilience by ensuring more than one carrier on core routes. He said when subventions were introduced, it was a time of reduced connectivity as the airline industry was recovering from COVID, resulting in limited capacity. Enterprise departments identified limited options for customers with hugely variable pricing. As a result, objectives for airline subventions were identified, ensuring reliability, frequency in an island-based carrier. You may remember when Tim Johnston was on and Mark Lewin were on from Enterprise, they talked about it and said this happens everywhere. In the UK, local authorities and in the devolved regions, the government support airlines. So it's not like it's anything out of the ordinary, although £7.5 million is some sort of out of the ordinary, isn't it? Anyway, if you've got any thoughts on that, that's the answer to the question. Kevin, thanks for yours. And Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
Very well. How are you? You've not been blown away, have you?
It was a rough one. It was a rough one. It's pretty soul destroying to see people losing everything that they've got and their only homes. So I was right in the middle of that, but we were out during Helene trying to save the neighbours, basically, stripping their stuff out the day after and everything. A lot of people were like 22 inches underwater in their houses, so it was devastating for a lot of people around the area, and the whole place is still devastated. I mean, I think we're a week after Milton now, and some areas have still not got electricity back, internet or drinkable water. So a bit catastrophic for the coastline.
And is that it? Is that the end of the hurricanes?
No, it's not actually. No, there's two more formations actually in the off in the Atlantic at the moment, which might not come to nothing because it's data modelling, but they're still warning people to be very careful about. It's not finished yet, but it's devastated a lot of areas in Florida, and Florida basically is all about beaches and shops. Really, there's no beauty in Florida except for beaches, so a lot of the coastline has been devastated. So not pretty at all, Andy, to be honest.
Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
It isn't. I tell you what, you're on the ball every time. Has Simon been on since I've been on time? Since I've been off? I've been off for a week, and Simon said I was boring last week when I was on with Alex. Has he been on this week, Andy, and put his input in?
Sadly, no, I haven't heard from Simon. I'm not familiar with Simon, but if Simon's listening, by all means, pick the phone up.
Yeah, pick the phone up, Simon, to join in. Make it more interesting if we're boring, So I just wanted to join on a few things because when I left here in April and I switched the fridge and the freezer off and everything as you do, and I came back and I'd forgotten a whole block of cheese that was in the fridge in a wrap. And the strange thing was, well, is it strange? It was not one bit of yellow, green or mould on the thing after 5 months. Not one. And that's with the fridge off in the humidity and the temperatures that we're in here. So the question I'd ask is, what are we eating these days in super processed and processed foods? I mean, when you look into Cabo, actually, if we've got any American listeners in, it's a very, very big cheese company over here. But we're not eating cheese, are we, when we buy this stuff sometimes? It's cultured. So that leads me into supporting our own local produce because we know what we get here. And we know that, we've got no mileage with it. So again, that leads me into the health situation. I spoke to Alex last Monday, and he was asking about what would you do to change the health situation. And I think when you're looking at the problem in all, it comes down to super bad diets that a lot of us actually have and super processed foods. So linking it all together, I mean, that's a good start, really, isn't it? Getting our kids on like local produce, healthy foods, because the whole thing links together. We've got so many, autoimmune diseases and everything now with our young kids are labelled with everything these days. I don't know, there's a kid that hasn't got a label on them these days. To get into healthy eating, and the whole thing surely links together with that kind of stuff. We were saying about saving money with health, etc. And I think Rob Colster mentioned this maybe a year ago. And people who have got life health problem, like thyroid or diabetes, they get all their prescriptions free. For that particular product, but anyone who's got that also get prescriptions for everything free. So probably not going to be popular with this one, but if we're going to save a lot of money, then surely you should be giving the people who've got that need the medication for life, you give that product free of charge. But if you've got you need a cream for your foot or something wrong with you elsewhere, you're getting all them free on the NHS at the moment. So I think if you looked at that alone, that would save surely a massive amount of money in buying and purchasing of drugs on the island for people.
I mean, again, just going back to talking about the what Julian was talking about in charging more for electricity. I mean, any politician that suggests that you put up the prices or you put up prescription charges is not going to be popular, are they?
No, they're not. And just on a buy side for that, a little bit of housekeeping. You asked me a long time ago about what the price was of electricity here in Florida. And actually, where I am at the moment, it's 9.25 cents per unit, which equates to probably about 12 pence per unit.
Wow.
So that's the going. That's the
so
going
12
rate
pence
here.
a unit, and you turned the fridge off for 6 months. It would have cost you about £2 to keep the fridge on.
Times are hard, Andy. There's a recession on.
All right, okay.
Need the money for something else. And the other thing I wanted to bring up as well, it was mentioned this week, and it was an article which is used by the government, I assume, well, it's government information to attract people here. And the biggest advantage of coming to the Isle of Man is there is no immigration health surcharge, which is seemingly quite a huge surcharge going to the UK. And so this has been broadcasted as one of the benefits of coming here. So again, when the local people look at that kind of stuff that they're offering to people coming in here, but the infrastructure is not correct for us, then surely you're asking for disconsent from the local people. If they are actually, if you've got so many thousand people waiting for dentistry and other things, and we're cutting down on elective surgery, but they're advertising, these type of things to people who have not even been here. So again, the question has to be asked there, are you looking after the people who are already here and paying national insurance and tax into the system and, voted this government in? Are you doing your best for them by advertising these type of things? And I know you've got to dangle carrots to get certain people here, but again, you've got to look after your locals and make sure your infrastructure's right. And kind of our infrastructure's not quite right at the moment, is it?
Okay. All right, Jewett, thanks for that. Good to hear from you.
Take care, Andy.
16 minutes before 1, and Betty's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, Betty.
Hi. I just want to say that I don't think Julian, Howard, and I've forgotten the last name. It's a guy who comes on who used to have a skip in Ramsey.
Oh, Wilf.
Wilf, yes. I think they're all very interesting and very knowledgeable. That's all.
Betty, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling today. It's a common. I've been doing phone-ins for about 40-odd years. It's really common for to get correspondents who say, these people are boring. And when you say, well, you call then. Oh, no, I couldn't do that, or couldn't possibly do that. But I'm perfectly happy to pass judgment on other people who do want to get involved. The problem with free anything is that people, says Mike, don't value it. Even a small charge would stop people over-ordering. Our prescription charge now is still less than it was in the UK when I returned from college in 1984. It was £5 then, says Mike. Well, that's a very important point. It's a psychological point, Mike, and I'm glad you made it. If something is free, I'm not saying everybody, but a certain portion of people will undervalue it because it's free. It's my right to have it. Therefore, I should have it when I want it, how much I want it, when I want it. And that's that. So psychologically, and remember, if you have a National Health Service, again, run by Manx Care, if you have a service that is free at the point of delivery, for which demand is technically unlimited, how on earth can you budget for that? No wonder the person in charge, the financial controller, Manx Care, must be scratching their head. How do you budget for something that is technically unlimited? I mean, certainly COVID-19 drove a cart and horses through everything. So at what point do we say, and it may be, I've had lots of correspondence over the past couple of weeks across a range of options from people saying, just put taxes up. Just put taxes up. The kind of untouchable is that it should be free at the point of use. And other people say, well, you never get people from Germany coming to the British Isles to take part in the National Health Service because the German one is so brilliant. It's run by, I think, half a dozen or perhaps more insurance companies. The insurance companies run it. And it is being German, it is very, very efficient. Get a GP appointment very promptly, get referred to a consultant within a week, you're offered a second opinion, and all the costs are absolutely screwed down by the insurance companies. And you pay a certain amount. There's obviously a German tax levy, but there's also a contribution to insurance companies. Because private industry is very good at keeping costs under control. When it goes into the public sector, you're then mixing what we had before. A government organisation, a government department, and delivery of a service. And that's what the Jonathan Michaels report wanted to do, is to separate the two so politicians weren't involved in the day-to-day. And then we are where we are. What do we do? Robert's on now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? Just getting people thinking a bit different today, if that's okay. How are you?
Yeah, good. What's on your mind?
Right, well, we were on Gollaghagan at the weekend, thinking about the Manx programs and what have you. I'm on eBay and a few other things, and they're asking for identification. I think it's in Manx Cur RC Vannon, or RC Vannon, and it's about a national residency card or ID card for people. I was just wondering if people could get a bit of gumption behind it and get an ID card for Isle of Man for residents, because I think we deserve one. I think it should be Aston Tynwald.
An ID card for everybody, and what purpose would it serve? What would it do?
It's another form of ID that's our own. It's our own. We do it on our own bat. We don't contact MI5 or anyone like that and get on the records down there. We do it ourselves. We do it for the Isle of Man. We give everyone who's a resident the right to have their own identity card as a proof of ID, which works on eBay and various other websites across in the UK. So we actually say, well, we do this ourselves. It's our own merit. We do it our own way, and we have gumption for ourselves to put ourselves forward and have our own identity card.
Interesting. And whereabouts have you spotted this?
Well, I've been on Twitter talking to Mr. Thomas down on the river there and a few other places. And it's just because, you have to, you probably have to pay for it, fair enough. You'd have to pay you £10 or £20 or 50 quid for it. But, I just think that if you look at these national companies over in the UK like eBay and things like that, if you just go on Twitter and look at Chris Thomas's feed, it's always in there. And as I say, it's Kurt RC Vannon or something like that was on Gollaghagan at the weekend. I just think we need a residency card to prove who we are.
I appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, no worries.
Good to hear from you. £3.85 per prescription is nothing to pay, says JK on 614. A message in just to say, maybe free at the point of service, but do you get the treatment you need? No, we don't get our good health back ever, says Anne. And that's the point. The word free is possibly misleading, because really, what is free? Apart from the air that you breathe, that's free. Rain is free. The weather is free. You get all that come what may. But really, if something is free, somewhere somebody's bought something. Somebody's paid for something. And in our health service, of course, It's you. You've paid for it. The taxpayer. You get the bill. You probably just had one now as the tax computations were just made. You get the bill. So, yeah. Let's go to Brian now. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Andy. It's just something that I don't know if it was Julian or the other lad who was talking about this red-legged grouse.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a red-legged grouse. There's a red grouse. That's what we have. That's the only grouse native to the British Isles. A red grouse, not red-legged. I mean, we don't have to tell lies about this turbines. The thing is, there's no buzzards nesting in Airy Stane at the moment because it's the wrong time of the year. So, we can knock that in the head as well. What I would say, it's not just Airy Stane we have to worry about. The proposing to get the turbines to Airy Stane to put a road across Kringle Great Park, aren't they?
Yep.
From the round table. Now, Kringle Great Park has got more scientific stuff on it than anything in Airy Stane. It has the red grouse nesting in Airy Stane, in Kringle Great Park. It has snipe, all sorts of lovely little songbirds. It's a shame because it's only going to be put there, that road. It's going to destroy acres and acres of land. And why are we doing it when we know these turbines are just a waste of space anyway?
Well, they seem to think we should play the long game and that in the long run, these wind turbines will be better for us. That's what they're saying.
Well, yeah. Andy, let's face it. Britain now is completely surrounded by turbines, and that imbecilic Labour government is proposing to put more up, destroy the countryside with those solar panels. I mean, surely we've got a better idea than that. I mean, the little power station in Pulrose is a fine little power station. Gas now is cheaper than it's been for many, many years. And what are we doing? We're going to bring in these turbines and destroy this beautiful island. And you were talking about the thing there, I can't even say the word of it actually. It was stratosphere or something.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. I mean, if we're the only place in Britain that's got this dark sky thing, why are we playing about with this?
Okay. All right, let's appreciate it. Brian, thanks for calling today. Good to hear from you. It is the red grouse, you're quite right, the medium-sized game bird. It's actually Lagopus, if you're into your Latin. The red grouse. And the Biosphere is what we were talking about. That's it. Right, that's it. Gotta go. Back with another open line tomorrow. Remember, on Wednesday, we're talking about plastic in the sea and the wind turbines with Jerome Watts, the businessman from Castletown, and Bill Dale, the Beach Buddies Supremo. In the meantime, Mannin Line at manxradio.com or the answer phone. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
We are rightly proud of our Manx bees, disease-free, excellent honey, though this year the wet weather has meant they have suffered and yields will be well down. Perhaps an answer is the one that Ian Qualtrough found when he went to the Shetlands and returned with a strain of bee that feeds on seaweed. He told David Collister about them.
You know, we get this wild weather and they're specially bred in the Shetlands. They work on the seaweed. When the tide is out, they work on the seaweed. Summertime, they can sometimes get 2 goes at the seaweed when the tide is out.
And produce honey from
Oh yes, it's a funny sort of honey. I brought a jar back. I'll give you a taste of it in a few minutes, but it's actually a little bit salty. But what they do in the Shetlands, they blend it with the heather honey, and it produces a lovely honey when they blend the two together at the end of the season.
So the one you've got is a blended one, really, is it?
It will be, yes, it's a blended, but you can just sort of get that little sharpness about it.
But you won't get much of a yield from these.
Oh, they do very well in the Shetlands. I don't know what I'll get here, but of course, you see, in Castletown here, half my bee foraging area is the sea.
Ah, yes.
Now, when you take bees, they fly up to about a mile away. So
you don't have to transport the hive onto the shoreline then?
Oh no, the bees do the travelling.
Yeah.
It's what are we here from the harbour, 100 yards out to Under Mollies, as we call it, down there, and along to Sandrick, all within a mile.
So they'll seek out the seaweed, will they?
Oh, they find this particular seaweed. There's one particular seaweed, and in fact they're very good at sort of, once they found it, they'll come back and tell the others where to go.
Well, are these really new to the island? Have they never been here before?
I understand a fellow had some at Portlamore once, many years ago, just after the First World War.
Do they have a name?
Well, as I say, there's a Celtic name in the Shetlands. Our nearest is Malya, and the honey that you get from them is called Malya Famlac.
Yeah.
So I'm not a very good Manx speaker, but it's Malya Famlac.
Could I taste some of this now, perhaps?
Yes. Just a second. I'll just give you this jar.
Oh, it is salty, isn't
it? Well, yes, a little bit, yes. But
you can just about get the salty tang of it.
Yes, but with the seasons that we've been having, a little bit of this, I'm hoping a lot of this, because it won't matter if it's raining or not, you see. Yeah. And these bees will work. They'll go out in all weathers.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.